welcome everyone who has joined us here at our town hall meeting. And the topic for tonight is your name on the label? Misuse of prescription drugs. And because of who's here, I just feel compelled. So I'm gonna go with my spirit. I'm just gonna set the atmosphere with prayer, if you don't mind. So just take a quick second. Father God, we thank you for the gathering that you have today, Lord God. We thank you for those who had a desire to come but just weren't able to, Lord God. We thank you for those who will show up, Lord God. Anywhere it goes, this information will be disseminated according to your plan and your purpose. We thank you for the format. We thank you for the workers. We thank you for your servants. And we also thank you for your grace and mercy. Loving you always and forever with every ounce of our being. We praise your name. In Jesus' name we give glory. Amen, amen, and amen. So let me start by this. Then I'm going to give it just a brief 5-minute little bit of information. Then I'm going to turn the discussion over to our main presenter, Mr. Cameron Foster. What I want to start with is just to share a little bit of what is misuse of prescription drugs. When you think about it, we hear it often, but what does that mean? What it means is when someone takes medication in a manner or in a way other than the dose than what's prescribed. So in other words, if you take a drug, any kind of medication in a manner or a dose other than what was originally prescribed, if you take someone else's prescriptions, even if it's for a legitimate medical complaint, such as for pain, taking medication for the feeling of euphoria or getting high, this is classified as misuse of prescription drugs. There are 3 classes of medication, information only for you. And if there's questions as we go along, feel free to drop it in the chat, or at the end, we'll give the opportunity for questions. But the commonly misused drugs are opiates, which are usually prescribed for pain medication, depressants, which are usually your tranquilizers, your sedatives, and what's called hypnotics. Then that's usually treated for anxiety or sleeping disorders. And then lastly, the category will be stimulants. These are your drugs that are usually given for people dealing with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorders. One piece of snippet I want to share with you that more than 80% of older patients, older adults, that's 57 to 85, use at least one prescription medication on a daily basis, with more than 50% taking more than 5 medications or supplements a day. This use of medication could potentially lead to health issues, which results unintentionally from medication being mixed and not understanding how they're being metabolized. With that being said, I want you to understand that with the larger, older adults, they also use the over-the-counter medications and dietary health supplements. And oftentimes doctors do not take that in consideration when they're prescribing to us in the African-American community, and they do not understand exactly how our bodies react to prescription meds. And that leads me to our illustrious speaker today, who's going to share more information. That's Mr. Cameron Foster. If I could share a little bit about him, Mr. Cameron Foster, he's a native of Cincinnati. He has a bachelor's of theology from Andersonville Seminary. He's registered with the Ohio Credentialing Board as a certified prevention specialist assistant, a chemical dependency counselor assistant, and Ohio Mental Health Addiction Services and Drug Addiction Services, certified Ohio Violence Prevention Process Trainer, Ohio Certified Peer Recovery Supporter, and Ohio Peer Recovery Supporter Supervisor, a member of the Reviving the Human Spirit Steering Committee, the Faith Leaders Academy Planning Committee. Cameron also serves as the member of the Tri-State Assist Building Planning Committee, Coalition for Drug-Free Greater Cincinnati Parent Task Force, and he's a board trustee of the First Step Home for Women and Children. Cameron is an emerging leader in the community. Cameron is extremely committed to his Church of Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, where he is actively involved with the youth ministry, the Waldrop Health and Youth Ministry, and the men's ministry as well. He's currently employed in the addiction services as the community outreach coordinator. Cameron has 19 years of experience in the prevention field in Hamilton County. Prior to his services at the Alcoholism Council, he did provide a multitude of prevention services at the Urban Minority Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Outreach Program of Cincinnati, Incorporated, to children's ages preschool to high school. Cameron has a wealth of professional training and experiences targeted to educators, counselors, clergy, and prevention specialists. His greatest accomplishment to date was his vision, creation, and development and implementation of Kumba Summer Enrichment Program for local children to become educated in a wide range of learning environments. This program is less than 2 years of age in operation and has received state recognition with the Ohio Department of Alcohol Drug Addiction Services in 2006 Exemplary Award. Cameron provides direct supervision for this program and dreams to expand the summer program to allow for higher enrollment. Mr. Cameron Foster has co-authored several grants that have been awarded to further enrich the children's lives experience. And with that, I present to you Mr. Cameron Foster. Mr. Cameron, thank you so very much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. I know this is a great topic, a great town hall, and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. As my colleague and my friend did state earlier, and she was talking about misuse of substances, and we're going to talk about it, is your name on the bottle, because a lot of times we do a lot of pills in the African-American community. We know people that do pill sharing and things of that nature. And what happens with pill sharing, we know Miss Shanae down the street, her and I got the same symptoms and have used the same drug. When I run out, I go get something from her, and she gets something from me in return. And sometimes that can be a deadly combination, because what happens, we never know how our body's going to react and how her body's going to react. I wanted to talk about that too. And as my colleague Kim did state earlier, adults 50 and over, like 84% of us, I fall within the age group myself, 84% of African Americans, likely voters, will take prescription drugs on a regular basis. 92% report a prescription drug, they take it. And then we say more than 3 in 5 say the prices are unreasonable. So one of the things we have to look at, and we look at history of drug trends, and then we'll go here real quick to historical perspective for this misuse of drugs as well. Back in the 70s, and in the 70s, heroin was real big in the African community, and it made a comeback as well. So there was not a lot of opiate use in our community at that time. You had the heroin, you had the cocaine, but recently there's been a shift where the opiates are in our community, and opiates, it comes from a plant, you know what I'm saying? So from a plant to a pill to heroin, and that's usually how the misuse of a substance happens, because we start using it so regularly, we never know the effects of the drug. As Ms. Kim said, one of the drugs is like a hallucinogen that we want to just relax, we want to get mellow and get high and relax. I don't know if you ever seen the movie JFK, and I always remember, this line sticks out to me so importantly, is that in the movie, Kevin Costner, he was reading a report from J. Edgar Hoover. It says, put the heroin in the Black community and put them to sleep. Think about it. Put the heroin in the Black community and put them to sleep. We've been asleep since 1970. late 60s and the 70s because the drugs have been in our community. Now you bring in another drug. So from drug trends, we went from heroin to cocaine to crack cocaine back to heroin. Now we have prescription misuse and abuse. So those things happen. And a lot of the times, even when people like say have a legal reason to say go to the doctor, and the doctor say, okay, for African Americans, they don't prescribe a large amount of opiates to us because they say we have a higher pain threshold, so we could tolerate pain more than say our the Caucasians or any other group of people. So what happens is if they give it to us, they don't give us a real strong dosage, or they don't give us a lot of it. So what happens? That's where the misuse also stems from misuse, because now when I run out of my medication, when the pain is I'm taking it the way I'm supposed to take it, the pain comes back, then I'll have what I need on hand, because I know sometimes you have to you only get so many refills, and we all know how the pharmaceutical companies operate with those prescriptions. So you got to carefully monitor how you use your medications. So the doctors they don't give you your proper amount, so we start misusing medication. So we start prescription sharing. Is your name on the bottle? That's a good topic. We have to realize where we getting it from, who we getting it from, and how we are getting our substances, things in our system into our hands. I was reading. There's a wealth of information out there for us to go to, websites and things of that nature. But one of the pieces I really was looking at is talking about here where how opiate deaths among African Americans have gone up. And observing among males, too, African American males, the use of opiates is going up. So your heroin, when it was in our community, it was an outbreak. When it was in their community, it's an epidemic. Now we're gonna do something about it. You know what I'm saying? Because they're coming from the suburbs into the inner city to buy their heroin, and sometimes don't make it back to the suburbs because that's where I'll just use I work in Avondale Corp area. I work for Addiction Services Council. It's a big, we're a treatment facility, right? But in our parking lot, we find people passed out from using the heroin, needle in arm, had to use a dart can to bring them back before we call a life squad. So they're so anxious to use this substance. And what happens is that, so we get this tag that, that we're big opiate users when we're really not. We're really not. And the data does say that we're not as prevalent to use those substances. The other piece I really like is that even though it's rising in our community, we're slow to catch on. Because like I said, in our community it's an outbreak, and in their community it's an epidemic. So they're slow to provide services for us for misuse of substances. Education is the key, and that's one of the things about being a prevention, working for drug prevention field. We do a lot of workshops, a lot of trainings around misuse, abuse of substances and things of that nature. And we know marijuana is a prevalent drug, but you have to realize today they're mixing those drugs with that fentanyl. So there's no more pure heroin, pure marijuana, or pure cocaine. Any one of those drugs could, cause a person to overdose, because street drugs have no percentage. But real quick, alcohol, like a can of beer, a 12-ounce can of beer, it's 6% alcohol. You can read it on the label. Street drugs, you cannot read it. Well, this is 6% fentanyl in this drug. You don't know what you're getting, because drugs change hands so many times that people don't know what they're getting. Because if I'm a dealer, I'm trying to boost my profits. So I'm going to, do whatever I can to boost profits so I can make my money. I don't care what's in it, as long as I get what I'm supposed to get out of it. And so what happens, you hear on the news stories now that in our inner city, in the urban core, now you hear of African American males, because females don't use a lot of the heroin. They may take Oxycontin, oxycodones, and things of that nature, which are opiate-based drugs, but they don't use a lot of the heroin product. So you hear about the males. So there's a big push now in Hamilton County for services towards educating African American males, also educating the faith community as well on opiate misuse and abuse. Because it all starts like I just said with the women, the oxycontin and oxycodone. What happens with those drugs? You know, you run out. Okay, the next thing is heroin. You know, so and we don't know what's actually in there. So we're gonna have to do a lot of work and stay on top of this thing because it's not going away. You know, either they could educate, you know, there's laws and things of that nature for it, but people gonna do what they do. But our job is to stay on top of it, educate them. You know, we can't walk around with our heads in the sand, saying, "Oh, that'll never happen to me or never happen in our neighborhood." We have people who are overdosing on prescription medication. You know, and I'll share a quick story. I had a cousin OD'd back in September of 2020. You know, because of her situation, pain medication. When they went in her house, she had been stockpiling medication. You know, and then that, you know, she just accidental overdose. You know, and she passed away. But because they so fearful of running out of it, but when they get it, they stockpile it. And when, you know, that day she, you know, God rest her soul, it just happened like that. So we have to educate ourselves, be aware of what's really going on. Even in, you know, I may not live in Avondale, I may not know anybody in the city, but it's from inner city to the suburbs where we are at. And so African Americans, you know, we misuse, overdose drugs. You know what I'm saying? So our African American communities, we got to be on point. And so some of the things that challenges us is the negative stigmas. A lot of times, you know, people use drugs and things of that nature. So if I get caught with the drug, you know, what happens? You know, because, you know, certain drugs brings in more sentencing time. You know, back in when the crack epidemic first hit, you talked about mandatory sentences. You know, so guys were getting these big long prison sentences was really small amounts of drugs. Same way with this fentanyl, they're you know, a person can sell it. If they can trace it back to the seller, they get charged with a murder case, you know, things of that nature. But those are things that happen. So we got to know the laws. And so a lot of African Americans, we don't want to have to get caught like that. But misuse of other people's medication, that's what we need to get with, because like I said, we are big at prescription sharing. You know, we would share, you know, just give me mine, I'll give you a couple of mine, and then when you get yours, you give me mine back. You know what I'm saying? So we can, you know, and so when, you know, it's like a rotation. You know, well, I know like a Miss Jones down the street, she has what, you know, we talk about it, we always talk. You know, sometimes I don't know if y'all remember in Avondale, there was a doctor on Rockdale. I don't know if y'all remember Dr. Pembauer. He would write prescriptions all the time for you. You come up with a symptom, he would write your prescription. And you know, a lot of times people go doctor shopping for the substances and things of that nature. So we have to look at that. So we have to be cognizant and aware of those things. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for you all. One of the things I really want to talk about, just like I'm gonna give you like 5 components of this thing here. Community informed strategies to address opiate misuse in the African American. One of the things we need to implement a comprehensive, holistic approach. This approach is necessary to address opiate misuse and addiction. This is a way of coping with the opiates and the absence of healing in the community, because we've been traumatized by a lot of things. You say 30% of Black communities are under poverty. So we look at our communities. Some of our communities have a sense of hopelessness, and people are working full time, not making enough money. So that's another sense of hopelessness. So and they to cope, they fix on opiates. The evidence is beyond our level. We talk about our criminal justice system, but look at the neighborhood, the impact on our neighborhood. Look at addiction in our neighborhood. You know, you ride through any urban neighborhood, look at the blight of the neighborhood. If you look through, I go through Avenue every day, so I see it, and you can see now if you go on Forest Avenue on the right hand side, Cincinnati Zoo is now pushing a whole block of people out to put new housing in on Forest Avenue. You look at all the work around Children's Hospital. They develop all that the housing units and things of that nature. Even how that bus runs through. There's one bus that goes like through Avondale all the way up to Kenwood. That wasn't built for us. That's built for them because they're going to come in the community, take back the community, and they want to go from Children's Hospital home. They don't want to do a whole lot of driving, so we ride this bus, take it straight to Kenwood, get off, get on. Look at Martin Luther King. That's in Avondale. Look at Martin Luther King Avenue, as that new corridor is opening up. And some of the drugs we need to talk about are methadone. And I'll tell you what that drug, it reduces withdrawal symptoms, craving. I can't say it. It's B-U-P-R-E-N-O-P. I can't say that word, but it treats withdrawal symptoms. Naloxone blocks the effects of sedatives. Naloxone is to prevent overdose. So those are drugs. You have your Oxycontin, your oxycodone, those type drugs, as well as pain medication. So when you talk about opiates, you really talk about the pain medication drugs of that nature. Tylenol 3s with the codeine in it, or Tylenol 4s with the codeine in it, codeine. So those are real big drugs that people use. Point number 2 in our community, we as African American, we don't trust. So we don't trust people coming in, trying to educate us, trying to do because we've been down that road before. So there's not a lot of trust issues. So we have to get to know, like the providers who come into our communities, get to know who's working in our communities, get to know what the services are being offered in our community that can help us. So one of the biggest places, we always used to say, and we still do say, the faith community. Our faith communities in some of our neighborhoods are reaching out and allow workshops to come in as we talk about the misuse of opiates. We're talking about doing Narcan trainings and Narcan seminars before the people in the congregation. They may not be using it, but be informed of it, and maybe could help save lives. At the end of the training, they'll get a kit of Narcan, and they'll be shown how to use it in case of an emergency, because we never know. That. Number 2 is involve the community, develop a multi-sectional diverse community partnership. Know what's in your community. Knows who the providers are. This is not a band-aid that one person can do all of this. Know what services are being offered in your community. Things of nature. Like I said, we just mentioned the drugs. Who can help? Who can help us in this educators? Who can help provide the services in case I need to take this person? A lot of times we want to rush them to the emergency, but there's services that they can get. They can go to treatment because treatment is available for these drugs. Also, one of the things we need to talk about is medication assisted treatment, MAT. That's a program that gives out, help them go from one drug, say get off the opiates, and help them stabilize. There may be your methadone, things of that nature, to help them get stabilized until they can totally become abstinent from drugs.
Cameron, yeah. May I interrupt just one brief moment? I think we have some guests that just joined us. If you wouldn't mind just putting your phone on mute. We hear just a little bit of background noise here. Thank you so very much. It's great music, though. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. So we talked about our community development, multi-sector diverse community partnership, involving the community leaders, the residents, and the organization. That's what I was talking about. Opiate misuse is understood by key informants involving the community prevention, like our prevention and treatment agencies. Find out from your community how that can help, who can help you with your strategies and things of nature. Number 3, increase culturally relevant public awareness campaigns. we need to raise our, like, I like the term, and Kim put it on, it's a family affair. We are a family of people that can help one another. We're here to learn from each other, but we all have a wealth of experience where we can help one another. No one person can tackle this by itself. Kim has a wealth of knowledge. And so she can like help navigate the team to where they could go to get other help and get other services and things of nature. So you got to rely on that person to get you to where she can bring in the resources. You got to find somebody who has the resources, has a skill set. I may just be able to one who could make a poster. You know what I'm saying? If I could use my arts and crafts stuff, I may be one who could just make phone calls. I may, have to use my skill set. So what we're doing is putting a team together to make, to get our information out there. What services that we do have here at the S.O.A.R Corp, S.O.A.R Development. Okay, we do this. Somebody could design a web page. Those type of services working as a team, that means they don't have to follow one person. Well, we started it and it didn't go anywhere because one person can't drive the whole train. It's a team.
Yeah. Cameron, do you mind if I say something real quick? Because you mentioned something that was awesome. And I want to make sure that our participants are able to walk away with that nugget. You mentioned the types of services and the MAT that's out there. But I just kind of wanted to let people know, what are we talking about? When you say something about the prescription drugs that are being misused, what if I don't even know what those drugs are? Can we touch base on that? If we talk about, for example, a depressant, what in the world is a depressant? Could that be? Sometimes we use those terms, the term depressant, but we don't know exactly what a depressant is. And if you don't mind, can I just throw a few of those terms out there? Yeah. So if you think about depressants, if you are ever prescribed or have been prescribed or know someone that was prescribed or is on the prescription, their terms are Amitol, Ativan, and Ambien. Those are three of the most common misused drugs that are depressants that are out there. When you think about benzodiazepines, those are drugs like Valium, Xanax. Those drugs are misused. If you think about opiates, we talked about that. And the opiates those are your codeines. How many people have been prescribed 500 milligram, 800 milligram codeine for pain? Easily to be abused. Some other things, fentanyl, you mentioned that, methadone, some of the analogs that are out there. I just want people to be familiar with some of these prescription drugs that they could be taken and not realize that they are at use with misusing them. And if we're sharing them, then without even knowing that we're misusing that drug. Percodan is another drug that is used. Something else that people are often prescribed which is a stimulant, that is your Ritalin and your Adderall. Ritalin and Adderall is often misused when people have ADHD. For them, it helps calm them down. But if you don't have ADHD and you take Ritalin and Adderall, it has the opposite effect. So it makes you feel high versus calming you down. So people end up misusing that. Another thing, something else to drop a little nugget out there, when we take over-the-counter cough medicine, some of those have benzodiazepines in them. And just look on the ingredients, and benzodiazepines also causes us to feel high. So those are other risks that people could use, or other drugs that people can misuse inadvertently. And Cameron, I'm sure that you may be touching on this a little later, so sorry if I jumped ahead, but I was so excited when you said the MAT. I was sitting over here with my screen off like, oh, go say it. So thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity. Please continue.
But along with those drugs that you mentioned, there's liquid forms of drugs, you know, so use your name on the bottle of alcohol. You know, alcohol is a legal depressant. It's a legal depressant. You can go to the store as long as you're over the age of 21, you can buy it. And it's done. It's a legal depressant. And we talk about, you know, real quick, we talk about, you know, the bottle of alcohol is going to say distilled spirits. We don't know what the distilled spirit may be in that bottle, because if you're taking prescription medication, and even your on your pill bottle says, do not use this drug with alcohol, because we never know the effect of how this is going to affect you, your body, or your mental capacity, because it may cause you to hallucinate, it may cause all types of things, because that's why they say, or don't take this drug and drop, you know, prescription medication. So, oh man, I've done this a million times before. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gonna hurt me, you know what I'm saying? But we never know. We never know when that time will come when this thing may, because, you know, drugs react on your body, whether you're sick, whether you're tired, whether you're hungry, those type things also, that's why they say eat when you take medication and things of nature, you know, you have to eat. You never know how it's going to affect you. And Kim made a good point, you know, those Percocets, you know, people, you know, when we think of drugs and we think of like the heroin and things like that, not everybody shoots heroin. You can snort it and snort it and smoke it as well. So there's drugs that you can, you know, we look at it as a negative on the hard line, but there's different ways you can use these prescription medications and abuse them and misuse them. Okay, so when we were talking about the culture of the public awareness campaign, and you got to make it fit your population. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of great information, but you got to make it fit to your audience that you're trying to capture. Number 4 is employ culture-specific strategies. Okay, now we got some, you know, we people, we like to get together. You know what I'm saying? We, you know, we like to we like music. Sometimes you have to use a little bit of music to draw people into your, you know, into your arena. Your personal relationships. You know, we like to be spoke to, not spoken at. You know what I'm saying? So, and then also, as I could be the one with all the information, but sometimes I just have to listen. Learn how to listen, because see, I don't have to always give the answer. They'll tell you what they need, and sometimes they come up with their own answer. They really, yeah, okay, now let me drop a little nugget on you. Okay, now this is where you go to figure the rest of this out, or how I can help you. Here's my name, here's my number. You know, so we have to talk about that. So we talked about substance abuse disorders. You know, so we got to learn how to teach people. We talked about opiate use disorder. Now we talk about substance use disorders. All encompassing, because it's a substance. We misuse it. It happens. So now I got to get help for what my misuse, and it becomes a disorder, because what happens, drugs are mood and mind altering. It's going to make you happy, sad, glad, or mad. Okay? And sometimes, you know, we may be all 3 in one. So what drug you take, and what state of mind we're in. You got to be culturally, you know. And so what happens, like I said earlier, our trust factor. We don't trust a lot of people, you know, because African Americans, we've been burnt so many times. You know, we sticking our neck out there trying to get the help, or they say, you know, and we have people come in, great presentation, but you never hear from them again. You don't even know how to get in touch with them. Those type things. And so we've been burnt. So yeah, knowledge is key, but be able to follow back through what you're doing. The other piece I really wanted to talk about is that when we, you know, we as a group of people, we know for a fact that what's going on in our house. Or, and I mean, and I'm talking about our house. You know, I ain't talking about just the house that you live in. Okay, the bigger house. You know what I'm saying? And we can, you know, and what we do, we need to stop shunning folks because they may have this situation going on in their lives. You know, yeah, it happens, but then our job is to help them and build them and lift them up as well. You know, because you know, we can all fall victim, we can all fall prey. You know, like you can go, you know, even though your doctor prescribed it for you. And one drug that Kim didn't mention was the gabapentin. It's real popular today. I work with homeless people. I work at the City Gospel Mission on a part-time basis, and it's after 7 or almost 8 o'clock. He will come to that counter 8 o'clock every night to get that gabapentin. He said, I'll be sleeping less than 7 minutes. And that's one of them. And I know a couple other people that they talk about this gabapentin. And I know when they run out, they be sharing, you know, when mine come in, you know, like I said, they share. But that's a drug that's out there now. It's in our community, big time use in our community, gabapentin. And so, and I know they don't even go to the doctor. They just call the doctor, hey, I ran out. Could you refill my prescription? They ain't seen doctors in months. The doctor don't know. Okay, yeah, that's Cameron calling. He's my patient of mine. I haven't seen Cameron in 6-7 months. But Cameron keep, you know, every 3 to 4 months, Cameron's calling in for a new prescription. And they write it and they fill it. And they know exactly, they go up to Crossroads Health Center and get their prescription. You know, so those type, that's a new drug on the rise that you have to watch out for. If you hear people taking gabapentin, just let your radar go up, to send your antennas up, and do a little, you know, they go, you know, calms them down. They go to sleep. It's supposed to relieve their pain. It's like a pain reliever or something like that. So I see a lot of people taking it. So guess what? There's new things coming out on the market. They're given to African American males. A lot of them are males, and you know, our population. So what happens if I keep him doped up? He's not able to do what he's supposed to do because now he's using. He don't probably started over here with the Percocets, the oxycodone, the oxycontin. Now I got a new drug. They call it the happy drug. That's what they call it. They call that the happy drug. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's so happy about it, but you know, that's what they call it. So we look, you know, we have to become aware, and we have to look for different trends and things like that. I'm going to open it up. So do you all have a question? I've been doing a lot of talking. Is there anything that you like to know, like to learn about? Because I don't want to just give you a lot of information. It may not fit what you need. So let me know what you like to hear. Anyone?
Cameron, I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit on what is what should I be looking for and as it relates to misusing prescription drugs? Are there signs? Are there symptoms? Are there?
Well, I mean, there are some signs. I mean, you know, with certain drugs, like, you know, like I said, with the heroin, you'll notice that sleepiness, things like that. The opiate, like you say, they're like say that mood swings is one of them. Is one of the biggest ones. You know, the mood swings and attitude changes. You know, the lack of drive. You know, is one of them. Another one would be, we say attitudes. We say lack of drive. You know, anxiety. You know, because now if I'm not on my medication, I'm supposed to be, you know, not twitching, but my anxiety level raises up. You know, those are three that I would really look for. You know, one, you know, and another one's, you know, it's not as bad as crack, but you know, money. You know, because sometimes people take those drugs and sell them for money. So now I'm trying to make money. So that'll be another one, like another red flag issue. And sometimes we even look, they're not having a low energy level. Would be another sign I would look for. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Come on. So.
I do. I have something. I'm sorry.
Okay, I do. I have something.
Okay. Wait a minute. Let me turn my camera on.
That'll help.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, what I guess my question is, for instance, a situation as you with family and somebody say, oh, I'm going to take a pain pill because my back hurt. Honey, you want one too? You want to say something. You try to address it, but it ain't pretty. So, I mean, how do you even, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say they addicted. I wouldn't know, but I'm saying I know that it's wrong. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of how do you feel that topic out? I mean, you know, we could talk about weed and say that's wrong because everybody going to say, oh yeah, you shouldn't do that. But, well, my back hurt too. and it's just a pain pill for my back. My back hurt just like his back hurt. We didn't go to the doctor and get you some. Well, then that's money. But it, so I could just, we married, so I'll just, but it's still wrong. But how do you get that across to them without, without it getting unfamily-like? That's my issue. You know what I'm saying? Because they want to jump, you know what I'm saying? They want, and you still trying to, you love your peoples and you want to be right with them. But that's kind of a hard pill for me, for me and my other, we was like, we don't know what to say. I mean, I said something. They was like, well, my back hurt. So we was like, oh, well, okay, I guess we just got to leave that right there. But that ain't right. So how do you kind of navigate that? It's kind of a hard thing. You know what I mean? Like they don't drink, they don't do nothing, but they share pills. That's just what they do. And they don't think that there's a problem. And that's why I got on here to see if I can say something or, a word, anything that I can say that may help. Okay, thank you.
That's a great.
You want to go first, Kim, or you want me to go first?
Rock, paper, no. Go ahead. You're
okay.
Right. Thank you.
One of the things, and I in our culture, our people, the least little pain, I gotta go take something for it. You know what I'm saying? It may be a legitimate pain, and I may have a legitimate prescription. One of the things that I would suggest, just a nugget or whatever, you can ask them when was the last time that they took the medication. How often are they taking this medication throughout the day? You know what I'm saying? Because it may say 3 times a day or 4. So now I can say, well, and take it every 3 to 4 hours. You see, because misuse come in where I take it before time needed. Just because my back hurt at 2 and I don't have to take it to 6, I still got 4 hours to deal with this thing. So what happens, by me doing this on a regular basis, I set up dependency for my medication. So I would try this, if it goods get the information on the dosage and the time, what times, how many times throughout the day that they have to take their medication. I know they say, well, it's just, my back hurt and I need it bad and I need it now, I understand. But there's, other remedies that you can use, some, like you said, it might be the shoes that they're wearing sometimes may cause their back to hurt. It may be different things. It may be how they move in that day, but doesn't always negate taking medication, because what happens, like I said, we can set up a dependence on this something. Well, I know I already know where to get my relief, because like you said, they don't smoke and they don't drink. Okay, well, I got something to make me that'll relieve this pain. So I run to it instead of, okay, let's look for alternative methods so we don't always have to run to the medication to relieve our pain. Because what happens, like I said, dependence come in, and then like you say, then when I run out, I'm starting sharing. So your name is not on their bottle and their name is not on your bottle. So it has to happen. We have to look at that. Okay, maybe we need to educate, sit down and educate everybody. Okay, these are some things that some alternative measures that we can take, that we don't always have to run and put that pill in our mouth before it's time for us to use it. Because what happens, your body starts setting up a dependence on it. If you're taking too much of it too often, you become dependent on the least little thing. Boom, here we go.
Yeah, that's good. That's an excellent question and wonderful, absolute response in terms of that individual. If the individual is taking more of the medication than actually prescribed, that's a cautionary moment to say, how often are you taking that, auntie or uncle? But when it's about medication sharing, one recommended strategy is to ask how it is on the education piece. You can just share the education to say, you don't know how that person who's taking it, how their body is really reacting. Generally, use starts out with experimental use. So obviously they've experimented and they've taken it, whatever that medication before, and they realize what works, what doesn't. But the next step to that would be, are we building a tolerance? And when you are building a tolerance, then, as Cameron was saying, it takes more and more of that prescription medication to achieve the desired effect. Desired effect is to not have pain. Desired effect may be, I need to get sleep. So you'll take more of something in order to achieve whatever it is you want to experience. So to answer your question, hopefully, Kathy, it will allow you to, next time you see that happen, would be to be cautious about how the other person who's not prescribed the medication, how it's affecting their body. Because everything you take orally has to go through your liver and your kidneys. So we know, well, the stomach, the esophagus, the stomach, your liver, your kidney, and then of course your digestive tract. So just think about where that medication is going through, and we don't know the damage, if any, that may be happening to that person. So that might help start a conversation in that way. Another thing that, if I may, and I know we're about 8:21 and getting time to probably pause, I would like to say to those who ever have a question, and you know when you see something you kind of go, oh, that don't seem right. The thing that may help you introduce the conversation is your name on the label? And how is that affecting you? And if the answer is no, my name's not on the label, then that may open up the conversation to say, how about checking with your doctor? Maybe that is something you could use, but check with your doctor. There is something to deal with cost. A lot of people, especially those who are elderly, will pill share because of the cost. The challenge with that, they may not realize, is that if their doctor is good, they should be watching the dosage and how often they're refilling the medication. So they should know if they have a 30-day prescription and they're asking for a refill and it's the 20th day of the month, if that doctor's really on their game, they should be able to say, you should have 10 more pills left. What's going on? So I hope that helps with answer that question.
Also the pharmacy too. The pharmacist, because every time that doctor writes a script, that pharmacist have, you go in a computer database now, and they'll tell you, well, you may not be time for you to refill your prescription. Then they may call the doctor as well. So those type of alerts come up as well, because once the prescription, runs out, they have to call the doctor for the refill. And okay, well, you gave them 30-day supply, like Kim just said, but they ran out of day 20. You know what I'm saying? Or they may only give you three refills, but you were here for a fourth refill already within that before the time, because they have it. I'm not quite sure we all take a medication. You can look on the bottom of that label; it tells you, what day the day they fill in, another date when you can come back and say, in a 90-day supply, or they'll have that date on there, or this is your last refill. You know what I'm saying? So now we got to call the doctor. So those type things, the pharmacists will know as well too. But those are a lot of good points right there.
So thank you so very much, Mr. Cameron. I'm looking at our time, and we try to be mindful of that. It was just a wonderful wealth of information that you provided for us. Wonderful, allowing us the opportunity to understand greater how we can work together as a community to help dealing with the addiction piece and how it impacts us as a community, the African American community. And I like the fact that you brought up the faith community. There's oftentimes within that area, that community, we don't always talk about dealing with addictions of any kind. And prescription medication is sometimes a little tricky because the doctors prescribe it and you think it's okay, but we don't open up this conversation about how we can abuse even that which is good for us. So thank you so very much for your time. I want to just make sure, do we have any other questions? Any parting thoughts? If you could do me a favor and you're off screen, no picture, reach down at the bottom of your screen where it says reaction. And if we're good, If there aren't any questions, give me a thumbs up. Are we good? Oh Lord, do we know how to use the thumbs up down there, y'all? Amen. Oh, we might be on phones. Okay, if we're on phones, no worries. I didn't think about that.
She might not have it. But one thing I just want to thank you all for allowing me to this opportunity to come speak with you all. And I'm going to give you all a number as well to the agency. It's 513-281-7880. That's a 24-hour hotline. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. They will actually talk to a live person.
Yes.
So our agency closes at 8 o'clock. That phone is now rolled over to a staff person. That person carries that phone from 8 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So any questions, comments, or concerns you may have, you can call that number as well. So I was a privilege and a pleasure to be invited anywhere.
Thank you so very much.
I know. So I thank you all.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It has been a pleasure to be here with you in our discussion. I hope to see you next month. Our next month discussion is going to be about marijuana use, some weed, some green stuff, some ooh-wee, whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, because it's legal now, so we got it.
Yes, it's a hot topic. So look forward to talking with you then. Have a good night, everyone. Be blessed.